Awesome. So, welcome to the third call of the Power of Systems Book Club. Um, Before we open up, was it chapters seven, eight, and nine for this call? Before we open that up, I'd love to check in and I'd love to hear what's occurring for you all, what you're creating, what is working, what isn't working, what isn't happening that perhaps you want to be happening. Um, any insights you took away from last week's call, anything that you took from last week's call, and particularly this actually, anything you took from last week's call that you have actively gone and played with, you've created something with it from it. I'd love to hear. And if there's nothing to share, we can also just dive straight in. I'd love to hear what you all took away from these chapters then, chapters seven, eight, and nine.
Can say something. I don't want to say too much because it's being recorded,
Hmm.
but there is somebody in my life who is really struggling and in overwhelm. And so I've spoken to this person about systems, taken out the personal for them, and then we're breaking it down, everything that needs to happen, we're breaking it down into tiny little bits and then creating little subsystems. And then we're going to have a weekly check-in
Mm.
about how it's going, how it's not going, and it's all going to be done in what system, what have you got, what didn't work, how can you tweak your system, and stuff like that. So it's an ongoing experiment with somebody else, but with my stuff, I am doing really well with my new systems thinking. The only thing is that occasionally emergencies come up and then I get derailed. I might like have a window and I'm doing that thing in my window and it's a commitment and then it's an emergency and then it has to take precedence and it's like and now I don't have a system for dealing with emergencies. I've discovered like how to yeah, I don't have enough space allocated for nothing so that I can, you know, absorb the extra stuff that happens to us all. So yeah, I think I need to create a bit of like nothing space rather than diary myself into oblivion and then be very, very disciplined. And then it annoys me when it goes wrong. It's not anyone's fault when something kicks off. And, like you've got family who are in desperate need and you get that call and you've got to go because an ambulance is coming. And that's the kind of emergency I'm talking about. And and then it's like, oh, well, I didn't get that thing done. And that annoys me because I'm trying to be really, well, not trying to be, I am being really good. So I've now realized I need to diary in like, yeah, a kind of, reserve space for doing the things.
Awesome. Can I work into that? Can I ask you
Yes,
a question?
yes.
Oh, yeah, ask some questions, but also just feedback a couple of things I heard. Um, I guess one thing to pull out and perhaps underline, and perhaps you didn't mean it like this, and I'd love to hear what you meant by this. But I'm joining the dots that I'm joining here. I heard you describe like or talk in terms of I've been really good, and then I think I heard you say when it goes wrong. And perhaps this isn't what you meant by it, but what I'm hearing or what I'm seeing is possible, and certainly what I've observed in myself is that we can create. we can create ourselves as like when we're following the system, good. And then when if we're not following the system, it's like that's bad, or like it's gone wrong. And it can be we can certainly create ourselves in that way. It's like right, as long as I'm following the system, it's all good. And if I'm not, that's a bad thing. And as I say, I don't know if this is what you meant by
That's
it.
a fair cop. That is a fair cop. I have taken it personally, and I sort of heard it in myself, which is why I then said I don't have a system for dealing with emergencies. So it's not me failing. I just hadn't realised that I need to build in a bit of leeway. But yeah, definitely, I have been doing the thing that I'm reading not to do, which is putting myself in there. Thank you.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, it can almost become like a criteria or a today I followed the system, like check good. Like well, like a report card kind of school vibe kind of thing. We can absolutely do that. And of course, I think one of the maybe it was in call one or call two, we talked about how like we're the creator of the system and the changer of the system or the breaker of the system. Like that we can embody all of that. We can capture all of that and still not make it personal or make it a good and bad thing. Like we can, there's something that exists beyond good and bad, something that's more creative than that. I think that's what it looks true to me. And there was a second thing that I heard, and this actually is very much in line with what chapter 7, 8, and 9 begin to point at, which is that there is always a system at play, like there's a current system. And I heard you say, I don't have a system for dealing with emergencies. And I'm
Yeah,
wondering,
I suppose I have my system is there's no contingency. But now I know there is no contingency. I can build it into my system, can't I?
so so the system being just so I understand, like when you say no contingency, no empty time to
No,
push something back into if needs be.
that's right. Yeah.
So like a system of grid locking or like a book ending every activity. It's like one leads to the next, no buffer space or time.
And that's how I've tried to manage my diary. I've been trying to, my system has been to put things in a diary so that I commit to them and then, yeah, but not have a contingency time. Yeah.
That's awesome because it sounds like your system of diarising has been working really well in terms of getting things done, and things are getting done. And then the unexpected happens, as it always does in life. Like things happen, and we've got to improvise. We've got to play with that situation. And it sounds like now you're aware of okay, there's a current system and there's something that could be tweaked.
Mm. Yeah.
What my final question, I think for now, um, what what could you experiment with? What could you test as a system around emergencies?
Well, I think it is to, um, because it's all about priorities, isn't it? When an emergency comes along, you prioritize something over another. And but the things that they're still important to me, and I still have got a lot to do that I really want to make progress on. So I'm, yeah, I'm just going to schedule in some time, um, where I don't like, so I'm not overcommitting myself because effectively in committing every minute of every day to something, I'm overcommitting because life is that the unexpected happens.
Mm, mm. So it sounds like organizing your time in a way that is more aligned with the nature of how life plays out.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if I get any bonus time, I can either get more done than I expected, or I can do nothing and relax and just moan, which will be nice.
Mm, mm. Yeah.
It'll be a bonus then, won't it, if I get more time?
It's funny, isn't it, with calendars and systems for organization. And I'm always amazed at how much this crops up in conversation with friends. I've observed it in myself, conversation with clients, etc. The system of see a gap, fill a gap.
Mm.
There's space in the diary and some automatic almost it feels quite reactive, like got to fill it, got to put something in there, like, oh, I can fit a call in there, or I can do this thing, connection call with someone, I can go and do that thing done, get that thing done. And there's something around filling the time. It's like it's also worth remembering it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Fill it up in a functional way, or a way that's aligned with how life works, where it's like, well, when are you going to rest? Oh, I don't have time for that. It's like, cool. See how long that goes. See how long that lasts.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're in hospital, not able to do anything.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks.
Keep us posted.
Oh, wheel. Thank you.
Are we complete for now, Karen?
Yeah, I can talk about. There was something that blew my mind. There was something that I might as well just say it because it's only little, and I'm desperate to hear what Chris has got to say because he always got good stuff. It was the someone woke me up to the fact that if I feel is followed by that or like, then it's really a thought, not a feeling. That was like jaw dropping for me. And I know a lot of the youth because I've been made to watch Love Island recently, and everyone going like, I feel like, I feel like, I feel like. That's a terrible Essex accent, isn't it? But anyway, there's a
But
lot of I feel like, and I just used to say to Soph, I think. Why don't they just say I think? Why don't they just say I think? And it didn't. It has caught my attention that that's what people are saying, but it wasn't. You know, when you actually have a feeling, a real feeling, and then you're putting that after it, rather than I feel like it's a turn of phrase, but I actually feel that I don't want to do something. You think, oh, no, that's not a feeling at all. That's a thought. Like, oh, because feelings, I take them quite lightly because they come and go like the weather. So I try not to like let any particular feelings knock me sideways because, like, 5 minutes later, it's completely different. So, but certainly I have felt that and thought that that was a feeling. So that was, I put, oh my word, next to that one and lots of exclamation marks. And that's it. And now I want to hear what Chris has to say.
yeah, we'll come back to that because that's I found the part in the book, I think. Yeah, then someone woke me up to the fact that if I feel is followed by that or like, then it is really a thought, not a feeling. No one has ever had the feeling of not wanting to do something. There is definitely a feeling in the body, but it is a thought that says that the feeling means I don't want to do it. So I slowly started to realize that my system was to go to my thinking, or what I called my psychology in the moment, which I think is a very cool term. Um, yeah, thanks for sharing that. We'll definitely circle back around to it. Chris.
The first thing, Karen, is this. I just have to point out this Bohemian Rhapsody visual you've got going right now is just amazing. I want
Thanks.
whatever that record is. I want. I'm going to pay $9.99 for it. That looks so cool. Okay,
All
so
right. Sitting in a car park in the dark.
oh, I mean, yeah, it's
But
yeah.
you've reminded me, if you're gonna spew into this.
So um I could have jumped in earlier, Will, when you asked your first question about last week, but a lot of what I would have said um, spills over into what you and I spoke about in our one-on-one call that we had last week, and we've exchanged a few messages about since. So I just chose not to do that in the moment there, but um, uh, what I liked about so let me just speaking of spewing, let me just spew a couple of things here that I've noticed as you all have been talking. Uh, the first phrase that came to mind that I heard somewhere was, and you all have probably heard it too, but the mind is an excellent servant, but a terrible master.
Mm.
And it 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 seeks constantly to assert itself and insert itself into our processes, into our experiences, into our feelings constantly. And I have been so used to accommodating it all my life that as certainly over the last year, but the last 5 to 10 years, as I've been able to pull away from that, um, it still happens, but I find that, and here's one thing that we can just take right from the book. In chapter 9, where he says, anytime someone asks me for a time commitment that is not in alignment with what I'm up to, I ask for 48 hours to look at my calendar and see if I can give it proper attention, given everything else, given my other commitments. So that's 48 hours. I could say, we can take and reduce that down to the 48 seconds, 4.8 seconds, whatever it takes to create that sacred pause in between the the thought masquerading as a feeling and something that's triggered in us, and we suddenly feel like, my system's falling apart. What's happening? I didn't plan for this. To stop and wait, step back, 3 breaths, whatever it is for all of us. I've had a couple of experiences with that over the last week, related to different things. One, well, both serious in different ways. One more personal, related to a family member of mine, of my family of origin, who's been causing a lot of trouble this year. And I found that again, slowing it all down and stepping back for a moment and sort of like see, okay, and even what you were just talking about, I'm feeling what he talks about in the book, mixing our psychology into all of this, is feeling is not so much what it's about to me. It's more about what I'm experiencing. And I find that if I have to talk to somebody, have a more delicate conversation with someone, when I'm able to, when I have the presence of mind to use the phrase, what I'm experiencing right now,
Mm.
speaks to all of it as a whole, but not necessarily what is going to define the next thing I'm going to say or the next thing I'm going to do or how I'm going to hear what else is going to be, what other information I'm going to receive in a conversation or so those are things that have helped me out here. And I love that it was being reminded of that in this chapter, in chapter 9, that third paragraph was really useful and also encouraging, because I've I slip out of alignment, of course, all the time, but the times that I do manage to catch it, and go, oh, okay, wait. I know what's happening here. I know what's happening inside. Slow it down, keep my mouth shut. Don't say anything. I don't have to say anything right now. All I have to do is sit here and let it continue to unfold. And then whether or not I was going to respond to something or assert something, neither of them are necessary most of the time. I can just continue to sit and receive it. And then when the right thing when the door opens, for me to then respond meaningfully, and from that deeper wisdom, that deeper place. It's the pause creates that. And on a less urgent level, or the more in the day to day, like I'm very conscious about when I return emails and text messages now from family, from clients. Like one client wanted to get on the phone last night on a Sunday night at 9:30 because he's bored, and it's an important client. But I'm like, no, this can wait till tomorrow. So a system, understand how my Apple focus modes work and automate them so that it automatically, because I didn't want to hit do not disturb after I'd already received his text, after a pause. It's better if it just because normally when they send the text, if you've got that engaged, it just comes right up. So I didn't get the chance to beat him to that last night, but I thought, I need to understand how to use these settings on the phone and on my devices. They can be useful. So there's a bunch of stuff. There might, if you will allow me 5 seconds, 6 seconds to see if there was something else that came out. I guess with sometimes when taking the pause, it's not always the last thing I'll say is it's not, for me, not always in response, I've realized, to external stimulation. But sometimes I have to even pause within my own thoughts. And if I am, sometimes I'm pretty good at being bored and letting my mind do nothing and turning everything off and just sitting in one place and staring off into space because it's good for the brain. The brain needs that. And I'm one of those who loves to fill a calendar, loves to see what's on the other channel, listen to music. Maybe I want to listen to music right now. 45 minutes later, I'm just scrolling through music and I haven't listened to anything and I'm just spiraling. That's I had that experience yesterday until or to keep listening to helpful videos or audiobooks. Like that pause, man. It's when I got to that point last night, I decided I'm gonna listen to an audiobook that's really helpful right now. But even with that, I was just like, dude, stop. You're not really taking this in because you're just looking to put something in there. So there you go. I guess I'll just park it there. Thanks for listening. I'll leave my mic open too. We're such a small group that if that's okay, Will.
I think as a system that will work.
We can self-regulate here.
Man, thank you. I really loved the 48-hour bit as well. And for a couple of reasons. I think he's used that example before. If you think back to Crazy Good, the serving versus pleasing chapter, and I think he used the example of the person that struggles to say no, and is always yes, 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 carry on. That featured in serving versus pleasing. I think everyone watching the replay, I've definitely shared that chapter with or will be familiar with that distinction. And again, we've seen that example of I struggle to say no used again here. What I love about this is there's another really cool example, or at least this is how I'm reading it. Another cool example of how we could we could view that as something that requires fixing and something that exists solely in the world of psychology. I'm a people pleaser. Why can't I say no? And I've certainly asked that question of myself a lot, and I've heard a lot of people I'm in conversation with say that, why can't I say no? Why do I always say yes? And you could dive really deep and try to figure it out in the world of psychology or the paradigm of psychology. Okay, what happens in my childhood, etc., etc. But he's created a fucking system for it. There's a system in place, and therefore the result can change immediately. And that's not to say that, again, it's not a valid journey to go on into, okay, I would like to understand perhaps there is a context in childhood that will help me know myself better. That's really cool. But if you're wanting a result created really quickly, like immediately, now, great. Because if you're just doing the paradigm of psychology, all the while you're trying to work out why, not the same thing is happening. You're getting the same outcomes, and it could take a year before you get to the bottom. You're like, I think this is the reason why. It's like, cool. Well, there's a whole other year of your life spent saying yes to everything. Whereas you can create the result really quickly with the 48-hour thing. I love that.
There's, sorry, go ahead.
Cool. I was just going to say, just to throw out a system that I really like in there, is the holding message. If I read something and I just want a bit more time with it, or particularly, I love sleeping on things as a system, or almost every, you know, I would say semi-significant decision will be slept on, sometimes a couple of nights. And I love putting out a holding message that just lets people know. And it's a way of affirming a boundary and but also going, I've heard you. I've heard you, I've seen your message, I'm gonna sleep on this. And I find that actually 100% of the time, in my experience, that's never been a problem with anyone. Works really well, the holding message. They feel respected and
Yes.
there's a give and take there. And I really like that.
One thing on systems and psychology, one final point. This was one thing I was trying to remember before. If we're going to get into that, uh, because we can be so hard on ourselves, and we're looking at all this very analytically, like right now, my systems, my subsystems, measuring, managing, it's a lot. And what makes me think of is how when we're learning any skill, any complicated skill, there's the minutia, and they eventually start to come together. It could be training our bodies too, teaching ourselves some physical skill, but there does come the point where the flow he kicks in. And he does mention Csikszentmihalyi a couple of chapters before when he mentioned, and he talks about flow in one of the earlier chapters. But I think it's helpful for me to, when I find myself doing that, thinking, oh my God, how many systems, how many can I handle? Go like, wait. I've learned things before. And what happens as they all start to come together, they become internalized. And then we don't have to think about all of the things start to happen because they're in our neurons already. They're in our neuronal systems. They're in our muscle memory. They're in our interactive muscles with other human beings, and we don't have to. And there's always the opportunity to re-examine too. But that's. But yeah, when it's the main challenge and all that, I think, is the psychology wanting to insert itself.
Mm-hmm.
Again and again and again and again, and tell us, wait, no, you screwed that up. You screwed that up. You need another book. You need another YouTube video. You need another lecture. You didn't quite get it that time. Fuck that. It's practice, pure and simple. That's how it seems to me. Not that it's easy. It is not easy, but I find that it's working. And that self-love and compassion and patience for whatever pace I'm taking in my acquisition of these skills and these habits. I got to be okay with that,
Man, I'm rifling through the pages because what you've just pointed to, I really want to pull out and underline, and I'm struggling to find. Does he not say in one of these like this is practicing
Page 42.
page 42.
Yeah, at the bottom.
Practice is one of the most powerful systems in the world. It is how we
there
learn
you go.
every other system. That's it. Now, I remember the first time this is the thing I want to pull out and underline with this. What looks true to me is there's a tipping point with this stuff, and not just this stuff. It's that, like, change what you look at, change what you see. Eventually, you practice this stuff enough, it becomes how you see the world. And I remember when I was 19 and I began what has been a 10-year journey, and it started with therapy. And I remember going in and we're having the conversations, and I'm starting to join dots and see things. And after a few months, I remember like I started to see people differently. I started to see interactions. I'd be at a pub somewhere hanging out with friends, and I'd be watching a family, and I'd be watching the body language, and I'd be watching the tone of voice, and I'd be watching, I'd start to see like dynamics. I'd be like, holy shit, that kid's comforting his mum. Like that, I saw the energy interaction that was happening. I was like, shit, man, like how I see the world is really changing, and that has changed over and over and over again over the last 10 years. It isn't like a one time and that's it. It's kept changing, and more palettes have been added to this thing, and so what certainly feels like the work to begin with, the stuff that you're baking in, which like in the jazz world, like all the scales, all the arpeggios in all 12 keys, taking that one lick and blowing it every position on the neck, and you're drilling it and drilling it and drilling it. And that eventually just becomes something that you hear on a gig in a jam situation, and it happens. It yeah, it's so baked in at that point. So I just wanted to pull that out and share it. Like they point to the practice bit here, and I think that does lead to a tipping point where, at least in this instance, like the past year, going deep on this book, everything now looks like a system, which means that everything looks like an experiment or an opportunity to experiment. It
I have a
looks,
question. Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, no, just that. It looks less rigid. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you all sometimes feel like the psychology wants to make this all seem much more difficult than it actually is?
Yeah.
Our own psychology. Do you ever experience that?
Yeah.
That's certainly true for me.
And I think we can't really get away from that. I think it's the human condition. And we just have to accept that's going to happen from time to time. And I love what you said about experience, because there's arguments in the world of psychology about whether emotion comes before thought or thought comes before emotion. They've actually proven that emotion comes before thought. And
Hmm.
so an emotion will rise up from wherever, and then we will justify it or rationalize it. And I don't think it's really helpful to even care which order it comes in. Like, I see them as two sides of the same coin, which is experience and how we're experiencing life. And that is so subjective that it's often, unless it's really good fun, why not just accept that? But it isn't really worth taking it that seriously. So
Yeah.
it's very three P's in that kind of way, isn't it? That, we're creating our experience from moment to moment. Like, yeah, whatever. Sometimes we know that we are, and sometimes we don't know that we are. And all we can do is get better at noticing, and then cut ourselves from slack, because we didn't create this system of human being, the Werner Erhard version, right? The being of human being. We didn't create it. It was this way when we were born. We just exist within it. And yeah, like it's gonna happen, and that's
Mhm.
fine. And it will
Mhm.
happen less, as you said, the more, because obviously we're all musicians here tonight, aren't we? So this is excellent. I was thinking the other day, for some reason my Facebook is now being just overtaken by people showing drum licks. And I remember, like, the first lesson I had trying to hit the snare at the same volume with the same hand over and over again and be consistent, and how hard that was. And now they're saying, oh, and this is on 2 and 4, and this is on 3 and 5, and blah, 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 and you do and a 1 and a bit, and they just play it and they, oh yeah, but that's easy, it's just this, bang. And it's, when it's embodied and it's a thing, then it's not a struggle. So it's just a journey through life, isn't it? To hone our systems and just get better at them.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I loved also the fact when he said, when you actually just recognize that everything's a system, we've already got one. It's not like we're adding anything more to do because we've already got a system. And we could just tweak it and then it would be easier. And then the why evaporates. We don't need the why anymore because we've done the thing. And then we have a completely different, talk to ourselves about how brilliant we are because we did this or whatever, like you said earlier. And that's just us trying to make meaning of it again, isn't it? And like literally just crack on, get over ourselves.
Mhm.
Chris, I just want to double check. Your question was, do you guys feel or think that our psychology gets in the way? I just want to clarify like what it was you asked.
Well, by psychology, would it be a stretch, Karen, for our purposes here to rename, we'll call the psychology the ego. Is that fair? Okay. Um, um, yes, it's, in my experience, it's that we, well, we recognize, oh, I've got a lot to learn.
Hmm.
And the ego or psychology wants to step right in and say, yes, you do. And okay, so you've got some systems, and look at these subsystems you're going to need, and then look at the subsystems of the subsystems and the subsystems, and and then eventually there's all that chatter starts up, and you don't want to do the thing, or you don't want to pick up the instrument. It's like, oh, it just feels like too much today. I don't have it in me. But when I ask that too, because it might also be your experience, you all, that said like, well, sit down at the piano, pick up the guitar or the drumstick. Let's keep the expectations low here. It's me at the climbing gym this morning. What do I feel like doing? What's a good place to start? What will feel good to do right now? And that starts to create its own momentum. And then bye-bye, psychology goes away. Because we get into the thing. And here too, it's like, if we were to listen to the ego, it would say, you're never going to get there. You're never going to be able to play that scale. You're never going to be able to climb that route, whatever the thing is. And so we figure, can't win, don't try. We know better. I know we all know better, but I think, is this clarifying the question at all? Because I think sometimes, in as much as it's this idea that can be very simple, is actually quite confrontational too. But we have to be willing to say, yeah, it's hard, but we can do it. This can work. This can totally work. We can do hard things. And maybe they're not even as hard as we think they are. Maybe it's just because we are so used to the chatter, that we're letting it derail. We're letting it stop us before we can get started.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we already have a lot of that stuff built into us, where we don't have to have subsystems. Maybe there are just a few little tweaks we need to make here that will have exponential returns. One slight turn of the finger, or pivot of the wrist, or you know what I'm saying? And it unlocks everything else. Sometimes it's just one or two little things, and not the whole thing needs to be re-examined again and again and again and again, because then we don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's a long answer to your question, or long clarification. I hope it made sense.
It makes massive sense. And I think there's something worth remembering in all of this. And again, this is just what looks true to me. We're not born with our ego. That thing is a fucking creation. It's made up. Well, who made it up? You. The real you behind all of that. You made that. You created it. And in many ways, like, the parts of it that we might describe as a bit fucked up and whatever, it's like, well, it's like that for a reason. That thing helped you help it has served you at some point. And like creation is creation. It all comes from the same place. Our thought, our ego is made of thought. So the same phenomenon that has created the ego is the same part of you that sits down and writes a song, that improvises freely. Like, it all comes from the same place. It is all your power, as far as I can see. Me, Will, at this moment in my life, believes this. And I'm voicing it like that because I'm also open to the idea that there's so much more to this that I haven't yet seen or discovered or dug up. But right now, that is what looks true to me. There's no separation between. There's no. It's all the same thing that creates. I'm trying to put some big things into words, and it's a bit tricky. But yeah, we created the ego. Um, it's not real. It's not true. What it says isn't true. Isn't real. Something that is really jumping out at me from these few chapters is they're offering different ways, literally different systems that you can use to separate, to create some space between you and your ego. I think that most people are running around on planet Earth with their ego so fucking stuck to their face that they can't tell the lie from who they really are. They really think that they are the same thing. And they're not. And anything that helps to pry even a slither of a gap between you and your ego, enough of a chance for you to see the facade for what it is, awesome. Think about that 48-hour no system that Steve Chandler uses. He literally says, it's enough time for me to step out of the ego. It's enough time for me to not react. And most of the time, I think when we react, that's the ego. That first knee-jerk reaction, it's coming from a certain place. Anything that creates space, something that we can literally create a system for, to create some space and a bit of separation between, like, what does the ego want versus, like, okay, what's actually going on here? It's the same with justification, explanation, because, like, they talk a lot about that story creation. Why isn't this thing happening? Oh, because insert story, or your innocent interpretation of what the reason might be. And the ego gets baked into that as well. And so these chapters are really offering, like, create a space, like, learn to separate, like, what is ego and what is truth here. And that's, I think, it's like, do you want stuff to happen in your life? It's like, well, it's simpler than the ego being involved. There's something that exists. Not that we cut the ego out. It never goes anywhere. It's a part of us. It's part of the system. But when we see it, when we're able to see the separation, we're able to see that it can be a hell of a lot simpler. We don't have to listen to the this will never happen. Like, well, that's kind of irrelevant if I'm playing with the system. I've just got to show up and plug into the system and crack on. It's irrelevant what the chat says. And I think
Doesn't generally offer a lot of solutions, does it?
it's
In my experience, it doesn't.
it's a creator. It creates
Yeah.
scenarios where it's like, look, project 40 years into the future. That's you, the loser. No one's married you, and you've done nothing with your life. It's a creation. That's what the ego is, and I think seeing it for that, it is a creation. It creates. So, well, how seriously can I take that then?
I think it's really useful to have an ego because our egos keep us safe in the physical world. And so if it isn't a physical reality right now, it's above its pay grade if it's chipping in. And somebody said, I think I've mentioned it before, it's like driving forwards whilst looking in the rearview mirror, because it can't tell what you're capable of or where you're going. But it acts like it can. So again, it's just noticing, isn't it, when the voice of the ego is kicking in, and it will, because we're designed to have one, because that's what makes us feel special and not special, but that it's the sense of self that if we didn't have a sense of self, we wouldn't feed ourselves. You know, we wouldn't be careful. It's a very useful physical aspect, but we're just giving it too much airtime.
Exactly.
So useful in the physical, I really like the way you've put it there. Useful in the physical world on a very practical level. It's useful to be able to go, hello, Karen, I'm Will. Like I can acknowledge that there are two physical beings and we have a name.
And it's a survival mechanism. It's absolutely, totally essential. But it doesn't need to get its finger in the pie on a lot of other stuff, which it does.
I think there are still I think it's in the modern, based on the way our brains evolved and where we find ourselves in the modern world, that it's easy to miss those software upgrades. It's it's still it's still running software that's thousands of years old, and new we have new stimuli coming at us that it never was designed for, and so I know we're giving it a hard time right now, but um uh and I take your point, Will, that it's also, the ego is also a creator. It is a storyteller. It's a pattern recognition mechanism. It's all of those things, but it doesn't know when to quit,
Right.
and we don't, and most of us don't know, A, if it's even happening, or B, how to stop it if once we do recognize it, or so sometimes hopefully book in conversations like this, we learn how to create a little bit of space to say, okay, thank you, thank you for your service, but I think I can, I see what's going on here, and I think you're mistaken, and I think there's maybe a way of, to work, like and the Buddhists always talk about working with the mind, working with thoughts, allowing the thoughts, not stopping them and shutting them down, because we can't do that. But it's always, though, helpful to see them and label them for what they are, so that we do maintain that little bit of distance and perspective. Yeah, it's amazing how the lizard brain what it will reinterpret as a tiger or a or a, or a dinosaur, and we have that same neurochemical response or biochemical response, and like, wait, the feeling, and it can run so far out ahead of us before we even know what's happening. So again, bring it back around, this pause, so whatever it takes, whether it's milliseconds or days, to slow it all down, sleep on it, think clearly, see what's happening, see what's actually true instead of what we're being told is true. Step out of the story.
Well,
I think James Smart used to say, was there anything that isn't who you really are? Peace, love, clarity, flow, gratitude, wisdom. Anything that's not that, made up story by your ego. It's thought normal. Anything that isn't that. So like any feeling that comes up, I've recently been doing great, guys. You'd be so proud of me in that flat. It's looking bloody amazing. There's still loads to do. And occasionally I'm like, oh my gosh, there's still so much to do. And then I recognize there's a feeling. Oh, I've got some thinking about it's got too much to do. And then I think, oh, do you know, I'm doing really well just by chipping away. I'm just going to go and do a bit more chipping away. And if I don't get much done, then perhaps another day I might do, and it'll all add up. And by the time, and then I just go and I start chipping, and it's not very horrible. And then I do more than I think I can do. And then I'm really pleased. And even the pleased bit is ego and stuff, but I don't care because I'm allowing nice stuff in. I'm quite happy with that. And but I've noticed that I'm not so overwhelmed, because I know overwhelmed is my key ego problem. That's the little thing it likes to wave its little flag at me. And then I feel that I hear myself say, I'm overwhelmed, think that's the label. I am more than overwhelmed. I'm the person that has the feelings, has the thinkings. That's not me. And then I go and do it anyway. And then the feeling evaporates, literally. So I'm practicing doing that I'm practicing doing that a lot, and it's working well. Not all the time do I notice it, but when I do, brilliant.
Right. So what I used as the quote in my email today, it may look like we're bypassing or even denying psychology by doing this. However, more often than not, the psychology gets cleared and cleaned even faster by doing the thing I was reluctant to do instead of wasting time and mental energy studying the reluctance. In other words, why?
It's
So
a perfect sentence, that, isn't it?
it I'm always scared. Like, I do my daily read before the calls just to recap everything. And I'm always scanning for the quote for the email, and it was that final bit at the end of chapter 9. And like, this really ties into what you were just saying there with overwhelm, and Chris, what you were saying earlier about like using our language to kind of paint a more accurate image of what is going on, like rather than I am angry or I am terrified, or that step further of like I'm an angry person, like really identifying with the thing, being like I am a person that is in this moment experiencing anger.
And
Like
there's the gap. That's it.
there's
That's the gap.
there's the space. It's just like I'm not the thing. I'm the thing before that experience that is capable of experiencing that. And all of a sudden it gets reframed as like, well, great, I'm a healthy human being. I'm experiencing a wide array of emotions. I'm not so fucked up that I'm completely numb and shut down or a psychopath. It's like, great,
Right.
you're as you're meant to function. And I look, yeah, I heard that in what you were saying, Karen. The overwhelm. It's like, cool, I can experience overwhelm. And just like we have 90,000 thoughts on average every day, it can pass really quickly. And I do find one of the quickest ways to even forget that you had a thought is get into action, get into something, anything, and it can be enough to disrupt it. And before you know it, it's
Mhm. Mhm.
only when we really identify with a thought that thoughts are flowing in and out every day. We're offered. I think we talked about that language as well in one of the maybe the call last week. Like, we're offered thoughts. They just come in, and then sometimes one we really identify with will pop through, and we'll take it, and it gets stuck, and it sticks, and the system gets clogged up because it's not passing through, and we obsess over it, and then we go, well, why? Why do I always feel this thing? And it gets more and more stuck, when really the nature of the system is that it wants to just pass through. Yeah.
It's that lovely quote, isn't it? Of we're the sky that has the weather, we're not the weather. I
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm. Yeah. That's been my go-to. I also like this idea that they're balloons, these thoughts, these ideas, the feelings, balloons. You can grab whatever one you want. If you keep holding on to it, it's gonna lift you up to a point where you get dropped. If you when you decide to let go of it, or the other thing to do is just, there's a balloon. I don't have to grab onto it. I can just you know what I'm noticing here, if I may.
Mhm.
I was flipping through a few pages here, And I like this. I wonder what you all think about this. It's the quote before chapter 9 by Brad Sugars. If a challenge arises, I use a system correction before I look for a people correction. I use a system solution in my innovation rather than a people solution. I wonder what we have to say about that.
Well, he's done rather well for himself, so I'd say he's got something there. And
Well,
yeah, people are people, aren't they? We're just going to be doing peopling. I love that quote. I don't think I've got anything useful to say about it other than, yeah, just like you take the people, yeah. And I'm just thinking about all my years in corporate. It really wasn't ever the people. It was always the system that was the problem. And they never looked to the right place to sort it out. And so we never got happier, or the problems didn't get resolved because they'd be looking in the wrong direction.
is it in Crazy Goodwill? Doesn't he tell a story about? There's one anecdote. I think it's Steve Chan was sharing about working with companies and getting the employees to talk with one another and realize that once you make these systemic tweaks, then everyone stops personalizing the problem and stops othering everybody else, and it's their fault. And therefore, I'm not happy because and we're all self-employed. So when we have client interactions that are, I assume so. I assume Philip, you're self-employed as well. But when we have more challenging interactions with the client, there's I like that this quote puts it back on us to say, well, wait a minute, what could we have done to bring this about? What tweak in our system needs to be made? If it's around communication, agreements, all that stuff. Instead of because again, there we're taking responsibility for ourselves. I that's what it says to me. That's what I love about it, I think, about this quote.
It's an interesting one because I guess you could look. I'm reading the people bit as I'm interpreting it in two different ways. Like I use a system correction before I look for a people correction. It's like, okay, what are the systems in a business rather than how are, say, the employees functioning together? Like, or you could look at it as people, or interchanging that word with psychology or the psychology of people, which is what the whole thing is pointing to. Um, I guess what this is, maybe this isn't directly. I'm being inspired by this quote to think of something else. I don't know exactly what he's getting at, but I'm thinking about systems and musicians. And then as soon as you said self-employed there, I thought, well, there's a huge thing in all of this, isn't there? Where musicians are, as far as I remember from music uni, and as far as what I've heard since, no, there is no educating on systems or running a business. The business module that we did at BIM was so dated, it applied kind of to the industry in the 90s, but we were studying it in 2014. So it's like already 15 years later and now 25 years later, a completely non-applicable set of things. And none of it was practical. No, none of it spoke about systems. And I was having a conversation with a friend Saturday night. We went to the pub, and I obviously won't say any names, but she was telling me about this and issues that she's been having with an agent who's doing the classic musician thing of, I'll be an agent. I've got enough contacts now, without realizing like the set of systems that work for you as a self-employed musician are not the same systems that are going to work running an agency. And this is one of the things I see all the time is where people are like illiterate with systems, or they haven't they're not looking at it in that way. All of these issues get created, and yeah, my friend was telling me all these issues. They don't even get the client names. They're turning up to the gigs, and all the timings are off. All the call sheet stuff is wrong. And she explained the whole situation. And I went, literally tweak that, tweak that, tweak that. It's like, and no offense, but the woman who does the call sheets, I don't really know why she's got a job. Like, who's the band leader? We don't have a band leader. Right. Pick one of you. It's like it's the agent, and it's funny because they ended up having a meeting with the agent, and it apparently got extremely heated and reactive, and it's ego meets ego. He was extremely different. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You know, blah, 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 blah. My friends just shouting, it's like, this is whole thing is unprofessional. It's like you could just not do any of that. So needless. It's like literally tweak a couple of things. It's not hard. It's just all down to systems. But it became a people problem. Right, that's where I'm seeing it. That issue is now no longer a systems issue. It's a I hate you system. Like you're that. And then we go to the pub. Oh, I hate working with that person. He's such a da 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 da. And it's like, right, now we have a people problem. This is that, and it didn't need to get to that. It could have just
Yeah.
remained a systems solution based thing. But now, like there are human relationships that need to be mended and fixed, and that's a different thing. Yeah, that was a whole like spray of words, but that's what you shared, and then what that quote sort of inspired for me.
I had an experience just a couple of weeks ago. I'm just realizing the connection to this now. During the pandemic, for session work, most of my, we all were looking to make whatever we could. So I kept the rates, my rates really low. And there's one client that came to me somewhere in there, 2020, 2021, and I was charging him $100 a track. So a couple of years go by, and we worked together in a couple of years, 2 years ago maybe, but it was a day-long thing. There was a drummer. We made the same thing with the same number of songs. But recently, he looked me up again. I've since raised my rates. They're double what I was charging him then, and sent him his files back. He's like, "I'm traveling." He was in England actually. He said, "I'm traveling right now, but sounds great." Da, da, da. And we hadn't discussed the money, and I checked with the drummer that I knew played on the same track. Said, "Hey, did you speak about did he pay you?" And he said, "Yeah, he sent me 200. I didn't ask about it. That's just what he sent me." Oh, I said, oh, "Okay, so then, well, don't you know this guy sends me $100, half of what he paid the drummer for the same work." And so that made me, yeah, that made me frustrated. And after feeling that and letting it go through, thought, wait. Do I have any case here? Did we talk about the money before I sent him his files? Nope. I took it for granted. I thought this person was going to have the entire, I just, my sticking point was like, how do you do that? How do you pay one musician half of what you're paying another and think they're not, especially when we know each other? And he didn't even think that we're going to talk, and I know. And so my mind was going through all these scenarios of I need to look him up. I need to make sure he knows that I know how much he paid the other guy. But then in the end, it was like, fuck it, man. You know what? This is done. This transaction's done. Maybe I'm done with this client. Because if a person can do that and not feel any sort of tension around it, it doesn't want to make it right, doesn't even ask me how much, 2 years later, since we worked together, like what my rate is, and he's just going to assume that it's okay to pay me half what he paid somebody else. If I don't have that conversation ahead of time, it's on me, 100% on me. My system was fucked up. He can have his own problems and his own, that's his karma, but mine is like, okay, I went from, I don't want to work with him anymore, to, if he calls again, we're going to have a talk. And that would be the time to go back and say, okay, last time we worked together, this time, right? But putting it back on myself, correcting my own system was way easier than staying pissed at this guy for not having the integrity to pay me the same that he paid my friend. So Yeah, it the people problems are too. As we know, we we don't control them as much as we'd like to. Sometimes we don't control people. So always best to start with, okay, let me check my let me check myself first. Let me check my system first.
Mm,
I think that's bottom line with this quote. Maybe what was really capturing my attention when I
mm.
looked at it again.
Thanks for pulling that out because I glanced over it actually. I didn't realize how much there was in there, but on my first and second reading. So thank you. Philip, I'd love to hear from you.
Sure. Um, should I? I mean, I know we've progressed from the beginning of the call, but at the beginning of the call, you asked what's landed with you. I
Yeah.
kind of had a comment. I was going to raise my hand, but then you got into the flow of the conversation. Um, if I can comment to that, is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course.
Um, so I found myself kind of getting burnt out and like making these huge to-do lists, and this week um, I kind of realized I just need to like just take things a lot easier with myself and just give myself like one thing that I need to do today. And that's kind of what I've just been prioritizing, like just making a lot less goals for myself, but just choosing one that's actually important and doable. Um, yeah. Uh, so that's about it. Just trying to get things a little bit more straightforward with myself rather than overwhelming. Um, yeah, and other than that, and I was just really enjoying listening to you guys talk. Um, yeah, I was following along. Anything else you'd like me to go into more?
Well, I'm curious to hear. So I heard you say I've been making long to-do lists and feeling burnt out and overwhelmed by it. Uh,
Yeah.
and it sounds like you're simplifying it. You're in terms of amount, bringing the tasks down, focusing on one thing.
Yeah.
What have you? What's happened as a result of that?
Well, okay, so this is kind of my system. I teach um in the evening after school. So I have my whole morning and afternoon period to myself. Um, and I try to use it productively. So usually I'll wake up about 9 or so, um, prepare my food for the day, like a smoothie and stuff like that. And then um, and then I'll probably play a little bit of piano, a little bit of flute as well. I started playing the flute again, and then I'll get to like the desk and try to, at some point around midday, be at the desk and start working. Um, and I started off by putting these like massive to-do lists. Have I got on here? Yeah, here we go. Massive to-do list. There's like 15 items there. Uh, and they're all big, fairly difficult things. They take a lot of time. Um, I mean, they're all doable, but they're all like this might take like an hour or two. That one's going to take half an hour or an hour or so. And I'll just look at that and just feel so overwhelmed. It's like, okay, cool. I've got like 5 6 hours before I'm teaching. What should I get started on? And I'd kind of get paralyzed and just procrastinate and just do anything but looking at that list 'cause it would just overwhelm me. Um, so since last week, I kind of realized I was in this loop of getting to the desk somewhere around midday and then just feeling overwhelmed by the list. Kind of, having a little bit of go at something, doing something, but ending up just being a little bit pissed off at myself because I thought I was going to do all of these things, and I'm just kind of procrastinating on it, not getting it done. And I kind of set myself like much smaller goals. So, for example, the other day I made the order of the thing I was going to buy from a shop online, which wasn't a big challenge, but it still took maybe about a half an hour to an hour to get the right items in the basket. Um, or just like, oh, I'm going to practice this piece on the piano. Um, you know, yeah. So, and that system's been working better for me as well.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah. And also I had an interesting experience because this weekend my friend done this kind of event that he does once a year. It's kind of like a birthday celebration mini festival at his house kind of thing. Over the course of the weekend, he just invites all the musicians over and we kind of jam. This year, he had a drum kit set up, so he just had like synthesizers and like guitars and basses and pianos and vocalists and djembes and everything, and it was a lot of fun. And I just enjoyed being in his energy because he has a super like easy going flow with things. I realized that I've been setting myself all of these like bodacious goals and then getting really overwhelmed by them and then not doing them and then getting pissed off at myself. And like he's just like the perfect example of like, oh, today I'm just gonna go and play on the sax. That's what I'm gonna do today, you know. And he does it, and then he feels great. So
So it sounds like what was being created was overwhelm.
yes,
You had a system that was perfect for creating overwhelm.
yeah, and inner conflict as well, and frustration with myself.
Which sounds like a reaction to the overwhelm. Tell me,
Yeah, yeah,
shut up, or tell me if this resonates. I'll throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. Like it
yeah,
sounds like a cyclical kind of thing where there's a system of do all of it and all today, and you've got this little window to get this all done, and here's the bodacious tasks, as you said, all listed out. That sounds like that was creating overwhelm.
yeah,
Ultimately, that's what that system was creating. And then your internal reaction to yourself was frustration. Well, you're experiencing overwhelm, and now I think you said now I'm frozen and I'm procrastinating. Further frustration itself, and then I would imagine maybe I'm purely riffing here.
yeah.
That frustration then fuels you writing the next very long list of like, I will get this shit done. I've had enough of this. I'm gonna wake up and fucking do it all. And then this cycle kind of just continues of
Exactly.
too
Yeah,
much
yeah, yeah. Spot on.
frustration, too much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, the things that I need to do are on the to-do list. They are great things, and you know, I mean, I do need to do those eventually in my life. Although, maybe the system is actually how important are these things? Rather than you know approaching it in this way, you could just simplify it a lot and do it in a way that might be more um, might lend itself more to happiness. I also had yeah, I also had a kind of a process where I was thinking about how, well, all of these things around, piano teaching and like, set this up and do this and the accounting and the contract and all of this stuff. I'm kind of like overwhelmed by it because in some way I kind of don't want to do it. I feel like it's a safe thing. I mean, I teach now, it's good, but I still feel myself like being called more as a musician to perform. Um, and I kind of got to this point like, rather than building this thing that I'm not really excited by, what about if I do this thing that I'm more excited by? So then I took a step back and I was like, okay, what about if this energy that I'm investing into like, do the accounts and do the contract and, market the thing and, work on the website and work on the teaching resources and this kind of teaching based stuff to, okay, here's a list of things that I need to do for being a performer. For example, record my music, put it online, work on my compositions, finish those off, record that as well eventually, put that online. Have, for example, a business card that would address me as a teacher. Have, maybe social media around me as a performer, and and then I took a really good piece of action for this week, which was get started on my driving test. So I signed up and made the first payment for driving lessons or yeah, driving school. Um, finally, because that's going to be a really important step for me to be able to do performances. Is going to have be able to have a car and be able to get around and be mobile because that was a very limiting factor this year. So so actually that was a really great piece of progress. I was like, actually sign up for driving lessons. That's a simple thing that isn't gonna overwhelm me. It's just get started on the driving lessons. So yeah, a little bit linked things, but a little bit separate but linked things about overwhelm and why am I overwhelmed? Actually, it's because I'm kind of doing something I don't really want to do. You know, something about that in there. Thank
Man,
you for allowing me to share.
dude, anytime. And as soon as you said happiness, the word that jumped to my mind was alignment. And then you went on to talk about what you are, what at least how I heard it, like what you are feeling aligned with and what you want. And again, and I fed this back to you, as I think many others have as well. Um, when you started talking about the car situation, I felt your tone of voice shift subtly. There was more excitement there, and I'm not surprised because it's directly connected to your to facilitating further exploration into your performance as a musician. And man, I sense an enormous amount of horsepower in you. I really do. Like that, and what it looks like knowing you over the last 18 months is waking up to you as an artist. And like the teaching thing, a lot of musicians do it because it makes sense. It's a very logical decision. It's often a good hourly rate. It's often, on Zoom. It can be really convenient. It can be fantastic. And I'm certainly not coming at this from an either or. Like
Yeah.
but it certainly like it really resonates with me when you talk about, well, is it, you know, is it actually that I'm trying to operate within the context of something that actually fundamentally I'm not that engaged with, not that interested in, or not wanting to do?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I, I, I think the idea of what I want to create in terms of teaching, it does make sense, and I'm in it. It works. I'm teaching online right now, and it works, and that's my main source of income. So I'm not dissing it. Uh, I think I realized as well this last couple of days because as I said, I was at this kind of mini festival at my mate's house, and something else that kind of occurred to me is like, you know, I think that a lot of people when they have things that they're like creating, like for example, a website or doing marketing for their social media, they like, well, I don't know how to do Instagram. I'm just gonna outsource it to a freelancer, and then rather than trying to figure out how to do Instagram and create content and do all of this stuff, which is going to take like 100 hours. Um, just pay a freelancer to do it. I heard this really cool story. It was like someone was explaining how I can't remember where I heard this, but I heard that somebody said it was like we were painting our apartment, and rather than just taking 2 days off work and paying a team to come in and they're just going to paint the whole apartment in 2 days. They're going to do the plastering and they're going to do it. Instead of doing that, we took a month out where we were painting wall by wall, doing it. It took us a whole month and basically the whole point is like rather than just getting someone else to do it properly in 2 days, you're going to try and do it yourself and it's going to take you a month and it's going to lead to much less worse results. And I realized that like, okay, rather than all of this stuff I'm like creating, like, oh, I'll figure it out myself. It's like, no, Phil, you're not going to. It's going to lead you to frustration. You've been doing it for ages and it's still not working and you're frustrated. Just do the thing that you're going to be good at and you're going to enjoy. And then once you've built up accumulated some, level, some balance on your bank account from the thing that you love doing, then you're like, yeah, if I invest 1 grand into someone doing my website, that might, bring some kind of returns on that investment. So yeah, that was another thing I was also kind of thinking about,
Mm,
loosely related to systems, but I think it's connected.
100%. And there's something I'm gonna send you after this. In fact, I'm gonna screen share
Oh, cool.
the Eisenhower box. So effectively, like these four quadrants, and what I was thinking about when you were talking about, right, I'm writing down all of these tasks. Maybe like what are the priorities here? What's the stuff
Yeah,
that you really want to do? And then you talked about happiness, and I heard alignment. So then I thought, well, okay, what are the most aligned tasks that are the highest leverage that are going to push the needle forward in the areas you're most passionate about or most interested in pursuing? I thought, well, putting it through something like the Eisenhower box, where you've got important, urgent is like do it, important, not urgent, decide, not important, urgent, delegate. What I was hearing you talk about social media, not important, not urgent, doesn't need to be a thing.
yeah.
Of course, like it doesn't have to be rigid, I think. Like you can create within this kind of thing. Um, but I'm going to send that over to you if you think that that'll be useful for you.
Funnily enough, I was literally thinking that was going to be useful for me. I was thinking, what's those two axes things that you have is the urgency and importance, yeah, and that helps you sort the tasks out in which order to do them, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
I saw Karen had her hand up. Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I saw Chris, your hand go up first. Karen, I assume you put your hand up first. Then we'll hear from you, Chris, and then a little bit of housekeeping from me at the end.
Yeah, I put my hand down because I didn't want Philip to think that he needed to rush to finish what he was saying. So I thought I'd just take the pressure off. And because it was lovely to hear you, Philip. Um,
Thank you.
oh, there was just something that we haven't touched on, which I thought that was really brought up what Sam was talking about last week about motivation. And I'm just saying that we haven't done that bit yet. It's been in here. This was the answer, and we haven't really alluded to it, which is the whole oh no, I made a note of that thing and I've lost my thing. But about the what did he call it? The fairy, not the fairy, unicorn, whatever it was. What
Is
did
it
he have?
the
It
bunny?
was all to do with like using the system. Oh, I'm just gonna have to find it now. It will come up in a minute. It was right near the beginning. I think it was um oh gosh, talk amongst yourselves.
What if I,
Chapter 6.
is it the willpower?
It's the willpower one. And about when someone says self-discipline, I hear self-torture, and when they say willpower, I hear will force, and I heard some of that in what Philip was sharing, and it's certainly something that I thought was following on from what Sam brought up last week,
Mm,
Mm,
and how um, we're just having, like self-discipline and willpower and Easter bunnies aren't required. We just need a system that works
mm,
mm,
for what we want to achieve. And obviously, Philip's got a whole new thing on that because what he wants to achieve is awesome. And I see
Mhm.
that as well, Philip. I see you just exploding. I just see you stepping into some different kind of energy totally when you talk about music. I love it when you share things. I love listening to you. I'd love you to do more of that. I think it's amazing. And and yeah, teaching does come with it. I mean, the reason I picked my drum teacher is because he's one of the best drummers in the world. So I thought, I want you to teach me, so then it's just a passing it on to the next generation kind of thing rather than oh, something they've got to do to pay the bill.
Mm,
Yeah, did I say that bit because we haven't covered that bit yet? I'll shut up now.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I mean, exactly. It really connects into the willpower, will force question thing. Yeah, I feel that as well.
It's funny, isn't it, with that? Because it does beg the question, something definitely to go away and play with. It's like if willpower is required consistently, then is there a system that just paves an easier path? It is like what I shared last week about the 6 a.m. gym versus the 2 p.m. gym. Is getting up at 6 a.m. in the winter to go to the gym actually a good system? It's like, no, it's making it really easy to hit snooze on the alarm and go, no, fuck this. I'm the creator and the breaker of systems, and then I can use that and then use it a bit too much. So yeah, I think that's a really cool thing to go and play with.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. What's the difference between uh I kind of at some point I realized, okay, what's my dream sleep schedule? Well, I could go to bed at 9 and wake up at 6, right? So that's still my 9 hours sleep. Or I could go to bed at midnight and wake up at 9. And I know I like those three little evening hours, you know. Maybe I'll waste them, but I can definitely wake up at 9. I can consistently wake up at 9. I usually wake up around 9. That's fine with me. But when I try to wake up at 6, I know that I won't be like, yeah, so just pick what's going to be the more comfortable thing for yourself, and don't delude yourself. I'm going to wake up at 6 every day. I did have a short stint of waking up at 6, but I was still going to sleep at midnight, and I was just pissed off because I was tired. I didn't get enough sleep. Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Well, I'm conscious of the time. I want to be respectful. Chris, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah.
Would you like to share and close the call?
What the word that came to mind when I heard you talking about your driver's license, Philip, was freedom. Expanding your own freedom, standing up for it and claiming it, and taking a measurable step in that direction to build a more expansive career and life for yourself there. And in terms of, and I was also encouraged to hear you, did I have it correctly that you were speaking about, okay, I'm a musician, but I also need to have an Instagram and I need to create content about this, and I need to teach, right? And then did I hear you correctly that in the end you've decided that I'm going to play, I'm
Yeah.
going to keep doing the thing, right? So that made my heart swell up for you, like, because I so think that is, I think that's so on the right track and the right goal. I'm reminded of Bill Evans, who, when he would have quiet periods, he said, I knew that if I just continued to take care of the music, everything else would fall into place. And he tuned out distractions. I mean, we still need to show up. However, we need to maintain our profile, whatever that is, to keep working. But that aside, like all the stuff that we sort of take on that we're supposed to do, like related to social media and having a global profile, I don't buy it. I don't think it's for everyone. I think I think there's more joy in taking care of our music, or whatever the thing is that's lighting us up and getting really fucking good, get better and better and better at that, and all the rest can follow behind. And when, like you said it yourself, when you get to that point where, you know I think I'm going to delegate some money, and or set some money aside and have somebody build a web page for me, that so I don't have to do it. That's what, I think that's an act of generosity to yourself.
Yeah.
And not feeling like you have to figure it all out yourself and go through a bunch of tedious fucking steps, learning how to create real, like, I've been on this path. That's why I get excited talking about it.
Yeah.
After hearing your story, it deeply resonates with me. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tie another system into this. Bit fully aware that this is going into public domain. That's also to hit two birds with one stone. That's a tax deductible system to save yourself the time,
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
True, true.
paying as little
Yeah.
tax as can be tied into that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the social media is an excellent example because I I can rack my brains out thinking how do I want to perceive myself? How do I want others to perceive the way that I perceive myself? It's like, how about if I just did my job well, saved up some money, and then just paid someone to do it for me freelance, and then they would probably do a much better job than I would anyway, and it would have the same result that I'm looking for, even a better result. So, yeah.
And man, like being real with it as well. I there's a local metal band in Brighton, and I think they're pretty cool. They're yeah, they're all right. And then I saw an Instagram story that they put out, and they've jumped on the trend of like when your singer does this at loading. And I saw it, and I just thought, for fuck's sake, really? Like, is that? I don't like what have you got to say as an artist? Like, stand for something. Be fucking real. Don't fucking. Sorry, I get really emotional about this. Don't jump trends. Is that what artists have been reduced to? Jump
Mhm.
on fucking trends to get as many likes and fuck that. Jesus Christ. Man, it's so much more than that. Don't worry about that, man. 100% fucking craft your art and say something and
Yeah,
be you.
I
Mhm.
agree. And
Went
let your music do the talking.
I went so off them after that. I was like, I'm not like, is that all you've got to say? Memes, but fuck off.
Do- Don't you think that got them a larger audience, or might have had the effect of, bringing in more eyeballs?
Maybe, but man,
At what cost?
I'd rather have a fan base of 500 people that are fucking there for it and they're behind the message and they live it than that's just me personally. And that is a complete aside on systems. That's
Yeah.
artist and that coming through, but we're not content creators. We're artists and I think more artists need to push back to like, no, we don't need to play that game. There are other games. Because the monopoly wins when they make you think that you need that.
Yeah.
And it's a game
Mhm.
that you can absolutely choose to play if you want it. And if, as a system, it creates the outcomes you want, more power to you. But it isn't the only game in town. It isn't the only system available.
I've got a client who's a painter and she just posts pictures of her painting. She doesn't put any comments. She just paint. Occasionally she'll say what her inspiration is, but mainly just done another painting. And then people get to see it and people comment on it. And the more people see it, and it's just she's sharing what she's done and she's not, yeah. And I've got another client who's a musician, very well-known musician. She just shows her playing. Sometimes it's at gigs, sometimes it's rehearsing. She'll sometimes show herself messing up and then laughing. And but mainly she's just doing what she does. And people get to see her doing what she does. It's brilliant. She does it. I don't think she even speaks. She literally just plays. Brilliant. Easy. It can be easy. And you play, and you could just record yourself while you're rehearsing and then just put it out. Like it doesn't have to be hard. And you don't have to do that either.
It's the free two, free
Yeah.
game.
No rules.
Activity and productivity are not the same thing, despite the fact that they are often confused with one another. And the conventional thinking is that um, activity is productivity, but I, eyeballs is one thing, engagement is another. You don't need to, we don't need to talk about what we do. We put it out there and we let people decide for themselves.
Mm. Yeah.
Guys, I love this. I'm gonna couple of bits of housekeeping, and then we'll close the call.
Yeah.
So Philip, I'm gonna send you. I'll take a screenshot of that Eisenhower box, and I'll
Yes.
send it over to you.
Yeah.
Um,
To me as well.
oh yeah, I can send that.
Now,
I'll send a group email out. Yeah, let's do that.
okay.
Good shout. Thank you. Cool. I'll make a note of that. And then we didn't do the exercise, and that's totally cool. We're going to do that next week. And I think that I have not heard from anyone that can't make next week, so that makes sense to do that. I'm going to run an open call on the 13th of October, which will be call number 5. That call will be capped at 15 people. So there's an opportunity, and I'll be sending an email out or a message one-to-one for the people that aren't, in the call today. That's an opportunity to invite someone that you think would be served by these kinds of conversations and specifically served by an increased awareness and tuning into the current systems at play and the creative experimentation that's available to them. So over the next couple of weeks, if there's anyone that you would like to invite to that open call, um, drop me a message. We can have an exchange and find out a bit more about them if I've not met them before. What I've also decided to do this book club, every time I run an open call, you have the opportunity to gift a coaching call with me to someone that you know. So that is a free of charge gift of an hour of time. So it might be the same person. You may think of someone and you may want to invite them to the open call and gift them a 1 hour coaching call. It might be two separate people. That's fine. But I'll leave that with you for the next couple of weeks. I'll be holding off on doing any enrolling until I've checked in with everyone. And if there's any spaces to fill, I've got a list of people that I will invite as well. All right.
Yeah. I think I'm going to be on a plane next Monday, Will, but I'm going to try and dial in. I might not be able to engage, but I can at least listen along and be there.
Awesome. Noted.
Miss you though, Chris. I love what you contribute, so I shall miss you.
Thank you, friends. This was fun. This was really fun today. Thanks for sharing and for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It was a pleasure. I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.
Take it easy, everybody. Lots of love.
Bye.
Lots of love. Bye.